Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah, amma ba'd. We continue, and inshallah azza wa jal we'll finish off the chapter of oaths, and then next week inshallah we'll have a new topic. Just one very important thing from last week that it's important for us to bring along with us for this week is that an oath is only counted when the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned or his names are attributes. Yani wallahi, wal Quran, wal Rahman, wa rahmatullah, anything that is an oath that's taken with a name or attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is an oath that is binding. As for if a person said, tomorrow I'm going to pray 15 rak'at, tomorrow I'm going to give $1,000 in sadaqah, tomorrow I'm going to go to the masjid, they are not counted as oaths. It may be a promise, it may be something that you want to motivate yourself with, etc., but it's not considered an oath. Also, if a person actually thought that something happened, okay, and he was wrong, then this is not something that you have to expiate for. If a person said, wallahi, the car was red, and he actually believed it was red, there's no expiation for that, even if he was wrong. If a person forgot, this is the third thing, if a person forgot that he had made an oath and so he done an act, there's also no expiation for that. So he said, wallahi, I'm not going to eat chicken tomorrow. And he forgot that he made that oath and he ate chicken the next day, he also doesn't have to expiate for that. Okay, because that which he done forgetfully or accidentally or out of being forced is not something that you are held accountable for with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We continue on and we are up to Bab Jami' al-Ayman. The ulama, when they write the books of fiqh, you'll find there's an actual chapter. For example, the Kitab al-Ayman, the chapter of oaths, and they will talk about the main matters, and then you have the Jami' al-Bab. Jami' al-Bab is like the miscellaneous matters that are related to that chapter. The Shaykh rahimahullah, he's going to speak now about the intentions when it comes to al-Ayman and how important they are. He says rahimahullah, ويرجع فيها إلى النية فيما يحتمله اللفظ فإذا حلف لا يكلم رجلا يريد واحدا بعينه أو لا يتغدى يريد غداء بعينه اختص يمينه به. The implication of the oath depends on the intention as long as the wording accommodates it. If one swears to not speak to a man intending a particular man or not to have lunch intending a certain lunch, the oath will apply to that only. If someone comes up and says a general oath, wallahi, I will not speak to a man. Now you have that wording, that general wording. It could mean multiple things. It could mean I'm not going to speak to a man, speak to this particular man. Or it could mean all men. So which of the two is it? It goes back to his intention. It goes back to his intention. The very famous hadith, إِنَّمَا الْعَمَلُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. The actions are by the intentions. So if the action is correct, then we look at the intention, what they intended by it. Because if a person wants to say the general wording was, I'm not going to speak to a man, means he's not allowed to speak to any man. That's what the apparent would be. But if he intended a specific man, then that's all his intention is. So as long as he speaks to any other man except for the particular one they intended, then there's no kafara on that particular individual. Now, there's no expiation on that particular individual. And this happens a lot in the Arabic language. Like when you say rajulan, this is am, lafz am, a general term. And it could literally mean any man on the face of the earth, or it could mean this one particular individual. So it goes back to the person's intention. Some of the ulama, they said no, it's you said that wording and you meant that wording, doesn't matter what you intend, it goes off your wording. But the stronger, wallahu alam, this is the Hanbali madhab, is that it is specifically what you intended. Or he says, I'm not going to eat. Someone's putting you food, he said, wallah, I'm not going to eat. Okay, this is a general term. It could mean I'm not going to eat this specific food that you put me, or I'm not going to eat at all. It goes back to the person's intention. What's your intention? I meant I'm not going to eat this particular food. So khalas. Then that's what your intention is. That's all you need to be worried about. The Sheikh's going to give other examples regarding this. This shows you how important having usul al-fiqh and understanding al-qawaid fiqhiyyah are. Because even the Sheikh, for those that ended up getting the book, which is mashallah, none of you, jazakumullah khairan, na'am, he actually puts in some of the notes what the mas'ala goes back to, whether it's an actual evidence in the Quran or Sunnah, an actual verse or hadith, or it's a fiqh principle. Here he put it هل النية تخصص اللفظ العام أو تعمم اللفظ الخاص. This is a mas'ala, this is a matter in qawaid fiqhiyyah. Does the intention generalize a specific term or make specific a general term? You have this difference of opinion, and it goes back to why there's a difference of opinion. Now, but the correct is, yes, it does. The intention is what dictates what the person intended is what has to happen. He continues, رحمه الله, وإن حلف لا يشرب له الماء من العطش يريد قطع منته حنث بكل ما فيه منا. This is a very important one because a lot of people make this mistake. And this all goes back to, again, the intention, by how some people misunderstand it. If one swears to not drink someone's water to quench one's thirst, intending to reject all things that count as favors, it will breach the oath to accept any favors from him. A person comes, you don't like him, let's just say his name is Khalid, because no one is called Khalid. Khalid comes to me and I don't like Khalid. I'm very angry with Khalid. And I don't want Khalid to do any favors for me. So someone says, oh, Khalid's coming with a box of water. And I say, Wallahi, I'm not going to drink a drop of water from Khalid. Goes back to my intention. What did I intend when I said a drop of water? Did I intend literally, I just don't want any water from him? Or did I mean because I can't stand Khalid right now? I don't want to accept anything from Khalid whatsoever. Anything that's going to give him a bit of virtue over me, I don't want it at all. If that was my intention, which is what happens in a lot of cases when it comes to someone that you don't like, you don't want anything from them at all, it's not only the water that you can't accept from him, it's the water and anything else that gives him that hand over you. So if Khalid said, for example, Khalid comes and you say, Wallahi, I'm not going to drink a drop of water from Khalid. And that's what you intended. You intended you don't want any favors from him at all. And then you're stuck, you need a lift, you're waiting for Uber, and Khalid says, Khalas, I'll take you home. You're not allowed to get in the car with him. Why? Because if he takes you home, he's done a favor for you. And you intended that you're not going to let him do any favors for you so he doesn't get a hand over you. Because that's what your intention was. If your intention was not, and he can do whatever else he wants, but that particular water, that's the only thing I don't want, then it's acceptable. This is very important when it comes to you taking oaths and there's context behind it. If you took an oath for a particular reason, what's that reason that you took that oath? And that's the importance of the intention in these matters. وإن حلف لا يلبس ثوبا من غزلها يريد قطع منتها فباعه وانتفع بثمنه حنث. And if he swears not, these are just examples. If he swears not to wear a garment that she wove, intending to not take favors from her, but then he sells it and makes use of its price, then he has breached his oath. He is angry with his wife, and his wife made him a thawb. And he said, Wallahi, I'm not going to wear anything that her hands have made. And he intends by it that I don't want any favors from her at all. I don't want to benefit her in the least, so she doesn't have a favor over me. So he took that thawb anyway, and he sold it, and he went and bought himself, for example, a nice dinner. The fact that he benefited from her, he's taken a favor from her. So now she has a hand over him, same as the last case. If that's specifically what you intended, then you've broken your oath and you need to expiate for it. If you actually intended that you're only going to not wear the thawb and you are happy to accept everything else, then it's not a problem. But again, all goes back to the place of the intention. The final example, there's actually more examples, but the final one that's translated for good reason. وإن حلف ليقضينه حقه غدا يريد ألا يتجاوزه قضاه فقضاه اليوم لم يحنث. This is an example of where he doesn't break his oath. If he swore by Allah that he's going to pay the person tomorrow, meaning he's going to give him his rights, and he ended up paying him today, does he break his oath, yes or no? Yeah. Yalla, apply the rule, Adam. Why yes, why no?
He had the intention of when he made that.
Who said you knew what his intention was? Or you knew what he said?
Well, if he does
This is the first step. What is intention? If he says, Wallahi, I'm going to pay you tomorrow. And he intended, actually, I'm going to pay you tomorrow and not today and not the day after. And he came and gave you the money today. What did he do? He broke his oath. But if he meant, I'm not going to delay you more than tomorrow. And this happens a lot. I'm not going to delay you more than tomorrow. And then he came and gave you the money today, then that's fine. He didn't break his oath because, again, what he intended. So you see how you made that mistake? It's good that at least you made the mistake so you learn, everyone learns at your expense. But at least you remember forever, inshallah. Now, always ask about the intention first. And then he may give some other examples, rahimahullah. One funny one, it's not translated, but I'll translate it for you. وإن حلف ليتزوجن على امرأته يريد غيظها لم يبر إلا بتزويج يغيظها. Who wants to translate it? If he took an oath that he's gonna get married on his wife, and he intended that he's just gonna make her angry, his oath is broken if he doesn't get married to a woman that makes her angry. Not only does he have to get married to a woman, he has to get married to a woman that makes her angry. Now, that's because it goes back to his intention. When he said, Wallahi, I'm going to get married on you, taban, we don't recommend this to any of the brothers or anyone. I think, Wallah, if you even threaten your wife with this, that you're going to get married just because you're angry with her, I think this is a very low individual. Very low individual. Now, never use the Sharia against a particular individual, male or female. Jayyid. But if he said it, and we're talking about if he said it as an example, said, Wallahi, I'm going to get married on top of you. Naam. And he meant by that, I'm going to get married just so you get extremely angry. And he went and got married to a girl that she likes and she's happy that they're married. It's not accepted. Their marriage is correct, but he still hasn't fulfilled his oath. And he needs to get married to one that she's extremely angry with. Which, alhamdulillah, for that particular brother is any woman. If there is no intention, what happens? وإن عدمت النية رجع إلى سبب اليمين وما هيجها فيقوم مقام نيته لدلالته عليها. If there was no intention, then the implication of the oath would depend on the reason for taking it. This will take the place of the intention in determining the implication. If a person said, Akhi, Wallahi, I'll pay you tomorrow, and he didn't have a particular intention. He didn't have an intention. We look at what was the context of this. So let's say the guy came to him and said, Akhi, I need my money. And he said, Wallahi, I'll pay you tomorrow. What would you say his intention is?
He's going to give him the money tomorrow.
A person, he owes someone money. And the guy comes to him and says, Akhi, I need my money. He says, Wallahi, I'll get it for you tomorrow. Which one of the two intentions do you think it is? That he's going to get it as soon as possible, even if you paid it to him today, or he's only going to give it tomorrow? No way he's going to give it to him today. As soon as possible. Someone that knows business knows what it is. Now, as soon as possible. And when he says, Wallah, I'm going to give it to you tomorrow, the guy wants his money. So he's going to give it from as soon as possible. But he means maximum tomorrow. Maximum tomorrow. So you look at the situation. Now, if he didn't have an intention. When someone came and put him food, and he said, Wallahi, I'm not going to eat. He said, okay, what was the intention? He said, I didn't have an intention. I just said it. We say, okay, we look at the situation. What did you mean you're not going to eat the food? Because I was full. So when I get hungry again, obviously I'm going to eat something else. But I'm full now, I can't eat, khalas. I'm not going to eat that particular food. So if there's no specific intention that the person had, we look at the context of what he said. And this is also very important because we get asked about this a lot. I said to my wife, Wallahi, if you do this, this will happen. So okay, what was the intention? He said, I didn't have a particular intention. So okay, what was the context of what you were saying? And then the case is determined based on that. فإن عدم ذلك حملت يمينه على ظاهر اللفظ فإن كان له عرف شرعي كالصلاة والزكاة حملت يمينه عليه وتناولت صحيحه فلو حلف لا يبيع فباع بيعا فاسدا لم يحنث إلا أن يضيفه إلى ما لا يصح بيعه كالحر والخمر فتتناول يمينه صورة البيع. If it is unknown, the context is unknown, a person said something, and we don't know the particular context, then if it has, then we go back to the clear wording of it. If there is a shari'i context to what he was saying, then we hold his words accordingly. When it comes to the haqa'iq, we have haqa'iq shar'iyya, haqa'iq urfiyya, haqa'iq lughawiyya. When I say a particular word, it's got different contexts. That context depends on, it could be a shari'i context. When I say the word salah, salah has a shari'i context, which is what we know, begins with takbir, ends with taslim. Okay? Specific actions. It has a lughawi context. Lughawi context, salah means dua. Salah means dua. And has a urfi context. Urfi means the custom. What does the custom understand to mean salah as? For salah, alhamdulillah, most of the customs, it's clear. Okay? But like we said last week about laham, about the word meat. In the Sharia used the word laham to also mean fish. But if you speak to most of the, for example, Arabs, and you say laham, it's very rare that they're going to say laham, we know it as fish. We call it samak, and that's it. Laham is beef or goat, etc. As for laham to mean 10 fish, no. That's the urfi context. So if a person said, Wallahi, tomorrow I'm going to pray for 10 minutes. What do we say this prayer is? Is it the Shara'i in context, or is it the linguistic context? We go back to the original, which is the Shara'i context, which means you said you're going to pray for 10 minutes and you swore by Allah Azza wa Jal, you have to pray the actual prayer for 10 minutes. Unless he intended the linguistic one, which means you pray for 10 minutes making dua. Okay, but it all goes back to intention. If there's no intention, then we hold it to what the Sharia said that particular word is used for. He says, rahimahullah, something very important here. If he swears not to sow, and then he enters into an invalid sales contract, he has not breached his oath. A person says, Wallah, I'm not going to buy or sell today. Wallah, I'm not going to buy or sell today. So he wants to stay at home. Wallah, I'm not going to go buy and sell. Why did you say that? Wallah, I don't know why I said it. I just said it. We say, okay, the fact that you didn't have intention, we're going to take your you're going to take your wording and hold it to what the Sharia considered buying and selling. So this person, he went and he bought alcohol. Did he break his oath? He's committed a major sin by buying alcohol, that's without doubt. But did he break his oath?
By that ruling, no, it's invalid.
Correct. That ruling, the sale was invalid because it's haram to buy and sell that which is haram. So the fact that he went and bought alcohol means it's haram. So that buying and selling, is it considered buying and selling shar'an? No, because it's invalid. It's not considered buying and selling. So even though he committed a major sin, he has to repent for that major sin. But did he break his oath? No, he didn't break his oath. Unless he makes an oath to not sow He went to the example. So if he swears not to sow and then he enters into an invalid contract, he has not breached his oath. Unless he makes an oath to not sow a free man or wine, in which case his oath will apply to that type of sale. Should be to sow. Mistake in the translation. The only time that haram sale will come in is when he makes an exception. Okay, when he makes an exception to that rule, again, all of it goes on to his intention. Wallahi, I will not buy and sell. And he says, I don't know why I said it, so there's no particular context. So we take it to the Sharia ruling, where the Sharia say buying and selling is X, Y, Z. But he said, I intended even the halal one. Halal, haram, everything together. Okay? If he went and done that, then he's got an intention. So we hold him to his intention, because there's something clear there. وإن لم يكن له عرف شرعي وكان له عرف في العادة كالدابة والضعينة حملت يمينه عليه فلو حلف لا يركب دابة فيمينه على الخيل والبغال والحمير. And if there is no Sharia-based implication, but there is a customary one, such as dabba. Dabba means beast. نعم. أو ضعينة, a traveler. The oath will be understood according to the customary implication. For example, if he swears not to ride a dabba, then his oath only applies to horses, mules, and donkeys. If he says, "Wallahi, I'm not going to ride any animal today." Wallahi, I'm not going to ride any animal today. We say, okay, did the Sharia, what did you intend? He said, I didn't intend anything. I didn't have a specific intention for my context. I'm not going to ride any animal today. I'm not going to travel today. We say, okay, did you intend something and the Sharia has something specific for the word dabba? The Sharia doesn't have anything specific for the word dabba. He says, okay, what do we go back to after that? The custom. What do we call dabba? Dabba, if you translate it, كل ما يدب على الأرض. Everything that steps on earth. That's why even the human being is called it falls on the category of dabba. Okay? So if you were to take that word dabba and put it on the language in the language sense, he's not allowed to ride anything. A horse, a camel, a donkey, a sheep, an ant. He's not allowed to ride on anything. But we say no, the custom is that when he said I'm not going to ride any dabba, it means that which is usually ridden from horses, camels and the likes. It's very simple. Let's go back to the intention. No intention, what did the Sharia say about the specific word? If there's nothing Sharia about that specific word, we go back to the custom. What did the custom say about that particular matter? And that's what we hold our word to. So if he said, I'm not going to ride any animal. No one rides, or no human being, it's fully there, is going to ride, for example, a cat, or going to ride a dog, or going to ride a sheep. Now, no one in his right mind is going to use that for travel. If he said, I'm not going to travel on any riding animal, it's knowing exactly what he's talking about. Now, because of the custom. And again, he gives a lot of examples. Rahimahullah. Kafaratul yamin. How does he expiate for the oath that he's taken and broken? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the kafara, إطعام عشرة مساكين من أوسط ما تطعمون أهليكم أو كسوتهم أو تحرير رقبة فمن لم يجد فصيام ثلاثة أيام. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the expiations for a person who broke his oath, that it is the feeding of 10 needy people from the average of that which you feed your own families, or clothing them, or freeing of a slave. But whoever cannot find or afford it, then a fast of 3 days is required. So it is a choice of feeding 10 poor people, or clothing 10 poor people, or freeing one slave. If you can't do these are a choice. You can do whichever one of the three you want. If you can't do this, then that's when you go to fasting 3 days. Only then. But for a person to go straight to the fasting 3 days, which for some reason became the norm in our culture, I'm talking about the Lebanese culture, it became the norm. This is incorrect. It's incorrect and it's not enough. It's not enough, nor is it allowed. The only time you go to fasting 3 days is when a person cannot afford to pay or to clothe or to free a slave. Is giving the value of freeing a slave or feeding 10 poor people or clothing them enough, giving the value? No. And this is also where a lot of people make the mistake, or when they give to a charity, for example, they just transfer X amount of dollars to a charity. This is not correct. If you want to transfer to a charity, you have to tell the charity what it's for. Write in the description, for example, kafarat yamin, or message them and get in contact with them. Akhi, I'm going to transfer money. Please feed or clothe 10 poor people with it. Because if you just transfer money to a charity, now anta wakkalt al-jam'iyya al-khayriyya. You done tawkeel. You gave them the responsibility. But they don't know what that money is for. You transferred $100. They may use it to pay off someone's bill, to buy a washing machine, to clean the masjid. Allahu Alam what they're going to use it for. It's going to go for charity, inshallah, but it's not in specific where the Sharia came and said you have to expiate an oath for. If you are going to transfer to a charity or give someone on your behalf, then you need to give them that amount and tell them what it's for. Also, people, if they give it to their family overseas, for example, you have a lot of poor relatives, South Africa, Turkey, Lebanon, wherever it may be, you can't just say, here's $100 and go do what you want with it. No. You can say, here's money, but buy food and distribute it amongst the rest of the family that are poor. This is allowed. But you have to give them that money and tell them what it's for, and so they can fulfill the responsibility properly. Can you give it to non-Muslims? No. The expiation only goes to Muslims. Does the fasting have to be right after each other? The Hanbali madhab, one of the opinions, there's two opinions in the Hanbali madhab. One opinion says yes. Okay, one opinion says yes, and that's because of the recitation of Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. فَصِيَامُ ثَلَاثِ أَيَّامٍ مُتَتَابِعَاتٍ. You have qira'at shadha. So there's recitation of the Quran which didn't come mutawatira. Okay, ready? So tawatur is that which came from a group of people, which becomes impossible for it to be a lie. So the Quran is reported mutawatir. The Prophet ﷺ told the companions took it, understood it, passed it on. So the chains of narration that we have for the Quran, they're all mutawatira. Yani there's that many people that narrated it, it's impossible to be a lie. Then you have other recitations of the Quran which don't meet that same standard. So there may be some differences in it. One of those differences is the recitation of Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, the famous companion Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. From amongst the differences that are there is فَصِيَامُ ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ مُتَتَابِعَاتٍ. They are 3 days consecutively. In the rest of the recitations, that word mutatabi'at is not there. Okay? So the ones that didn't take this recitation, they said you can fast any 3 days. Today, next week, the week after. This month, next month, the month after. Doesn't matter. The ones that took this as evidence, they said it is 3 days consecutively, based on Ibn Mas'ud's recitation. طيب. Do we take those recitations and say that they're Quran? No. Can they be used as evidence? Yes, and I'll explain the difference. The Quran has certain rules that need to be there in order for it to be Quran. This is, by the way, the stupidity of those that say we don't take a hadith, because a hadith, maybe a man made the mistake from it. He said the Quran and the hadith came the exact same way. The Quran and the hadith came to us the exact same way. Naam. And they say, oh, but there's a hadith that are weak. So yeah, there are also recitations of the Quran that are weak. That's the whole point of the ulama and the whole point of the sciences of Quran and the sciences of hadith, to keep away that which is weak and only keep that which is authentic and strong. So from the recitations of the Quran, there's certain rules that are applied to it. Those rules obviously don't apply to they're called qira'at shadha. The weaker, the word weak is not correct because there's still a place for weak hadith. Now, but the weaker narrations, I'm not sure of the right word to use for qira'at shadha, but the recitations which are not correct or not considered part of the main recitations, they are not used to worship Allah with. We don't read them in salah. We don't use it like, okay, you read one letter, you get 10 hasanat. We don't use that. Why then do some of the ulama say we can use it as evidence? Because there are other reasons that assist it. Example here. فَسِيَامُ ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ مُتَتَابِعَاتٍ. Some of the ulama said Ibn Mas'ud didn't recite that as Quran, but he put that like as his own note. As his own note. Like, you know, when you're writing a book, you've got the book, and then you put number 1, you put a footnote, you put it consecutively. That he understood that these 3 days need to be done right after each other. So they say, okay, it's not Quran, but it's a statement of a companion. And then it goes back to the question, is a statement of a companion an evidence or not? Jayyid? That goes back to what subject? Usul al-fiqh. Say why Usul al-fiqh is important? Okay. The ulama, they said a statement of a companion is not an evidence. What do they say about this? We don't take it. The ulama, they say the statement of a companion is evidence. What do they say? Yes, you have to stick to it. Okay, you have to stick to it. Allahu Alam, the stronger opinion is that because there's nothing to specify in the Quran or Sunnah that it has to be 3 days after each other, then it can be split up. But the safer option, if a person is able to do, is right after each other. Jayid? That's the safer option if a person is able to do it. وهو مخير بين تقديم الكفارة على الحنث أو تأخيرها عليه عنه لقول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من حلف على يمين فرأى غيرها خيرا منها فليكفر وليأتي الذي هو خير. Say the Prophet told us to make takfir. والروية فليأتي الذي هو خير وليكفر عن يمينه. He is free to expiate before or after breaching the oath. This is because the Prophet ﷺ said, he who took an oath but found something else better than that should expiate for his oath and do that which is better. It is also reported that he should do that which is better and then expiate from his oath. And the report came in both wordings. So if you swear by Allah something and then you see something that which is better than that, Prophet ﷺ said in one narration, expiate and do that which you've seen as better. Another narration, do that which is better, then expiate for it. Example, he said, Wallahi, I'm not going to talk to my mother-in-law ever again. You got that angry with your mother-in-law? Wallahi, I'm not going to talk to my mother-in-law ever again. Then, after you got home, you calmed down and you said, you know what? The fact that she made me a coffee with no sugar, it's probably not a good reason to not speak to her for the rest of my life. So you say, Khalas, I'm going to talk to her. So do you have to go and speak to her and then break your oath? Or you can go and pay straight away and you break your oath? Either one is fine. Either one is fine. Okay? You say, I'm not going to break off the tie of kinship, so you go back again. This is a proper. You can pay straight away, fix the problem, and then your oath is broken, and go speak to her. Or if you speak to her, then break it, it's up to you. A common example is say, Wallahi, I'm not going to go back to that masjid again. Okay, you got into an issue with someone at a masjid, you say, Wallahi, I'm not going to come to that masjid again. And then you say to yourself after a while, why am I stopping myself from all that goodness? Khalas, I'm going to go there, and obviously you break your oath, and you pay for it, and then you go, inshallah. ويجزئه في الكسوة ما تجوز الصلاة فيه للرجل ثوب وللمرأة درع وخمار ويجزئه أن يطعم 5 مساكين ويكسو 5 ولو أعتق نصف رقبة أو أطعم 5 أو كساهم أو أعتق نصف عبدين لم يجزئ. When it comes to the clothing, how much does he clothe? That which the salah is correct in. So for a man, a thawb, a piece of cloth in which it's covered, especially in the Hanbali madhab, the shoulders need to be covered, and then the awrah. Okay, so a thawb, something that a man would normally wear. And for a woman, a dir'a and a khimar. The dir'a is that which they wrap like a skirt, and the khimar is that which comes on top, like similar to a jilbab. So he's able to do that. He's able to dress or feed 5 each. That's not an issue. If he was to feed 5 people and dress 5 people, also that's not an issue. But when it comes to freeing a slave, he has to free one whole complete slave. Okay, that one there's no option in. If he was to free half a slave, and then free another half of a slave, that's not allowed. Or if he was to free a slave and feed 5 poor people, that's not allowed. Or free a slave and dress 5 poor people, not allowed. Just put in your head, if it comes to a slave, he has to free the whole slave, if he's going to do it. As for feeding or dressing, he's allowed to do both of them. Are there slaves today? Are you sure? Has to be in the literal sense. Are there slaves today؟ ما خدام يعني. نحن عملناها حرام أما بس هي من أما. خدام أنت بدك تدفع لها. Like a nanny or a maid, you have to pay for it. She's not a slave. There are slaves. What country? What country is there still slavery? That's a continent. Where in Africa? In Mauritania. Mauritania, there's still actual slaves, like actual slave trade, everything, like normal, open. Now, Mauritania is a Muslim country. Now there's, they didn't sign. I don't know if they signed it later on, but I know that originally they didn't sign for there not to be any slaves.
So there is still slavery there?
Yeah.
Can you still free a slave there?
Yeah. It's expensive. I remember your dad, when they were with Idu, he was, I told him to look into it, subhanAllah. And he never got back to me, so. It's been like, 15 years? So you should speak to your dad and say, Nassim's still waiting for you to get back. I can't remember the prices, because I wanted to know how much it was. Because it would have been like something good they can offer the brothers from here. But I never found out how much they were. But yeah, in Mauritania, there are still slaves. وَلَا يُكَفِّرُ الْعَبْدُ إِلَّا بِالصِّيَامِ. If a person is a slave, then he doesn't pay because his wealth is his master's wealth. So he only does it through fasting. ويكفر بالصوم من لم يجد ما يكفر به فاضلا عن مؤنته ومؤنة عياله وقضاء دينه. So the slave, he only fasts, and the person is allowed to fast when he cannot afford, very important, when he cannot afford to pay. But what is afford here? What you need, your sustenance, those that rely on you, their sustenance, or if you have debt that you can't pay off. Anything above these people, if you have money, you need to pay for that particular breaking of the oath. ولا يلزمه أن يبيع في ذلك شيئا يحتاج إليه من مسكن وخادم وأثاث وكتب وآنية وبضاعة يختل ربحها المحتاج إليه. He is not required to sell for that anything he needs, such as his home, his servant, or his furniture, as well as books and utensils. The same is true concerning merchandise he relies on for a needed profit. If you have debt to someone, you owe them money. A lot of people, they don't fear Allah enough, and they don't have enough knowledge to know that when you have matters with people, Allah's going to question you based on the Sharia, not based on what you're going to get away with in court here. If you go to court and you say, listen, I don't have any money, the court might say, okay, no problem, you don't have any money, claim bankruptcy, and the guy, sorry, you don't get anything. Sharia doesn't work like that. If you owe someone money and you say, I don't have any cash, we say, okay, no problem, jazakallah khairan, you don't have cash. What do you have that you can sell? Is there anything that you have that is well above your need that you can sell and make money and give the person his money back? He may say, yeah, I've got a Rolex, for example. We say, okay, you don't need a Rolex. You sell that Rolex, for example, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it's worth. Get rid of that. Yeah, I've got an old car that I have, like a luxury car, antique car. So okay, thank you very much. That car is worth $100,000. You don't need that. Sell it. You have to sell those things in order to pay off your debts. Tells you, yeah, I've got my house and I've got a holiday house. Okay, you don't need your holiday house. Sell your holiday house and pay back your debts. As for the people that they don't pay their people back because they don't have money there, this sharan does not mean that they are going to get away with it in the hereafter. No, I mean, obviously if a person has debts, he has to pay for it. Huh?
Work for them?
You can, if that's the agreement, that's part of it. You can do that if you both agree on it. But if a person says, I don't have money, I don't have cash, that's why I can't pay you, we say, look, you have to find what you can sell if you have that which is available in order to sell it. Now, this is also a similar case. Person says, okay, I don't have money. Okay, but mashallah, your house, your garage, your life is full of things that you don't need. If you can sell in order to be able to pay, then you need a soul to be able to pay. It's only that which you actually need, or that which you need to make money. Like let's say he's got a ute. His ute is worth 30,000, 40,000, but he needs it for work. So he said, okay, you need it for work, you don't have to sell it. Now, his house, it's a possession, it's worth $1 million, but he needs to live in it. These things, okay, that you need, not an issue, inshallah. But that which is above that, you need to get rid of that. ومن أيسر بعد شروعه في الصوم لم يلزمه الانتقال عنه. Whoever starts, because he doesn't have any money, whoever starts fasting, he doesn't have to stop fasting if he became rich. Okay? He started fasting, someone came and gave him $1 million as a gift, he doesn't have to change from fasting. Why? Because it has to do with the ruling at that particular time. When the ruling became an obligation on you, what was it that you didn't have, that you started fasting? Khalas. Then it goes to fasting. ومن لم يجد إلا مسكينا واحدا ردد عليه 10 أيام. And whoever can only find one poor person, then he gives that person a meal every 10 days, or for up to 10 days. How much does he give? How much does he give from food?
One fig, but normally what you would eat.
Yeah, yani 2 amdad, for example, yani if it was rice. A mud is 2 handfuls. Okay, handful. Maybe it's like half a kilo or like 750 grams, even maybe. Naam. And then 4 amdad is a sa'. If you hear sa', you hear mud. Mud is 2 hands. I have 2 average hands. Naam. Because everything before used to be through size. Like you have like a bucket, that's the sa', put it in. Okay, everything used to be weighed like that. Now everything's kilos. But before it wasn't like that. Now, so you get a mud, 1, 2. Okay, that's how much you need to feed. But any person you feed him, you buy him a bag of rice. Alhamdulillah, we have plenty. Naam, and we have extra. If we send it overseas, it's even cheaper for us. Naam, buy a person, a few 10 families, buy them a big bag of rice each. This is fine. Jayid. Most people just do a bag of rice because it goes off what you eat means in your meal. What does your main meal have? Here for us, it's either bread or it's going to be rice. Okay, so khalas. One of the two, that which is enough for one big meal, this is enough for that over there. So if you buy, for example, a 5 kilo bag, 3 kilo bag, you need 10 of them and give them to the poor people, this is enough, inshallah. With that, see how simple this book is. With that, we have finished Kitab al-Ayman. هذا والله أعلم. صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله محمد وصحبه أجمعين.